Welcome back to Life on Record, the podcast where we laugh so we don't cry about our soul-crushing realities. I'm your host today, Kenny Compton, as we're mixing it up, and as always, with my amazing brother.
Maybe. Hi, I'm Matt Compton. Let's be honest. Life is hard. It's very hard. But in today's podcast, Kenny is going to spend some time asking me questions on leadership, accountability, and ownership. So let's dive in.
Wow. Yeah, this is some serious stuff here. All right, so let's start it out. First question is going to be, Matt, what are some of the leadership myths you have learned, I guess, in your career in the Navy and possibly outside of the Navy?
Cool. Hell yeah. Let's talk about these leadership myths. You may have heard sometime in your life where people will say that leaders are born, not made. It couldn't be any further from the truth. Leadership has a lot to do with who you surround yourself with, who you've learned from, who you have become friends with, or even just somebody that maybe was your boss at one time. And those learned experiences help make us leaders in our own lives, maybe within our own family circle or friend circle, however you want to view it. Everybody has their own type of family dynamic. But I would say, yeah, definitely the first one is leaders are definitely not born. They're made through education and their background and their culture and just, how they're brought up. And they also want to be motivated by it, right? You don't just become a leader because it's just going to happen. You have to want something out of it, whether it's a challenge, you're trying to win a championship in sports, because we like to make those sports analogies, or you're just, wanting to be a great parent, right? And you want to lead your kids to have a successful life. That would be one myth. What do you think about that, Kenny?
I definitely was not born a leader, and I wouldn't say my personality does not lend me to be a leader. However, as you mentioned, if you are starting a family, if you have, if you're married, you want to have kids, you do need to be a leader for your child. So whether that's, teaching them things as they grow up so they don't become assholes when they get older. I definitely learned that kind of on the fly. But also you take experience, like you said, take experiences from maybe you growing up, like from our father. I've taken some of those aspects from my dad and from our mom as well, both our parents. And, you don't want to be exactly them, obviously, but they do show some things along the way, and you learn stuff, like you said, in maybe your career that you want to implement as you lead your family. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I wasn't born a leader, just learned things here and there from different people along the way. And I'm still learning today. I mean, I do have a career. It's not the greatest. As a lot of us, I'd say majority of people in the world don't have a job that they are necessarily, all gung-ho about or enthusiastic about every day. But sometimes you have to put on that face in order to get through. I lost my train of thought here, so we'll cut this. It's all for sure.
Good. But, that's sorry. Good conversation.
Let's see. Yeah, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, I'll move on to the next one. So if you think about this next myth, some people think that leaders have to be charismatic and have to know exactly what they're doing and be in complete control of every situation. Completely not true. Definitely learned this one in the Navy. Is there were different leaders that I had in my career that were, methodical and quiet, but that kind of quiet smart where they knew what was coming and could be like 5 steps ahead of everyone else, but they weren't charismatic enough to be very outgoing. They were very quiet, very reserved. They would give their orders and then just expect that to be followed and completed with precision and accuracy so that we would meet the mission. Outside of the Navy, there's definitely plenty of people that I work with that aren't charismatic, working in fintech and working in e-commerce and operations. Those type of jobs, sometimes you have those kind of quiet leaders that are just out there heads down doing the job, making sure that other people are successful, and they may not be in complete control of everything. For example, if a shipment is missed, there's nothing they can really do, but what can they do? They can set themselves up for success and make sure that their team is successful on ensuring when that order comes in late or that delivery comes in late, that they're ready for it and they are steps ahead and get ahead on other tasks so that they can kind of help somewhat control the situation on their end and what they can control, and the things that they can't control that are out of their kind of ownership or accountability areas, that they can just let that go and then make decisions based on how things happen in real time. So that's where you don't have to be in complete control. You know, you can make decisions on the fly. You can, you know, learn from the experiences that you had previously, and that you can be a quiet leader. That we see that in sports a lot, where you might have captains that don't necessarily, you know, have a lot to say during interviews, or they're not on the field, you know, being that general and you know, pushing the team around to do things, right? They're just leading with their actions, and maybe it's with how they perform on the field or how they perform in the community by going out and volunteering and helping in different areas, and then leading in their life and, you know, making sure that their family's taken care of and taking care and helping raise their children, and maybe taking care of their parents is like buying them a house because they never had a house before. And now they made it to professional sports and they buy their parents their first home ever. Right. But they're doing it quietly. You never always hear about that. You may hear about it from the stars that are out there, but you may not necessarily hear it from, you know, the unknown players, especially now in college with NIL and players getting paid with what they're doing in college sports. Maybe they're able to take care of their brothers and sisters. Maybe they want to go to college and they couldn't afford it and didn't get a scholarship like they did. So again, it's not all about being in complete control. It's about, you know, how can you as a person be a good leader and deal with those things, and kind of making those decisions as they come up. But you can't make all the decisions. There's going to be other people in your life that help drive that, and you can't be perfect either. Like, perfection is just unrealistic. Kenny, what would you say if somebody's like, hey, you have to be perfect in this or you're going to screw up your life? Well, we all make those bad mistakes. And what do you call them? You call them what?
Learning opportunities. Yes.
Yeah, those learning opportunities. I think that would be beneficial for people to keep.
Yeah,
following.
and to kind of
what's your go ahead.
piggyback on what you're saying. You know, when I think of great leaders, the first thing usually that comes to mind, and I think this is because growing up in sports, or maybe even listening to presidents speak, they are charismatic, and they do seem charismatic, but that's only one aspect of what they're doing. And to your point about not having, or you just won't have complete control, and you're not making all the decisions. And that to me is a better leader when you can, damn, I'll get there. Don't worry. You can cut this part out too.
Good.
An aspect of a great leader is someone that can recognize greatness in others or potential in others, and put those people in, certain situations so that they can thrive. So it's not just, this coach or this president or this person, whatever, this boss, manager is able to give this great speech, and we're like, oh yeah, let's go do it. Let's get it done. Or whatever. Those are great moments, but they also, like I said, possess the ability, to see someone that would be a better fit in a different role, or and put those people in those positions so that they can succeed, so that the team in general can succeed. So that's what I think about when we're talking about these myths. Yes, it's good to have some of these aspects. Like I said, I do believe that some people are innately, they're born, or they have these characteristics that tend to push them into leadership roles, or they have a certain drive that someone else doesn't have. Like me personally, I've never had this overbearing drive to be necessarily great at something. And that's echoes, in my life. So, and someone else may have a different situation, and that's all they think about is, I have to be great. You can go back and look at, for example, Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest basketball player that ever played. Was he great when he first got to the NBA? No, he was not. It took him years of putting in hard work, and that goes along with it as well. In my eyes, to be a great, and he was a great leader of his team.
Yeah, he joined a team that was hot garbage. The Bulls were terrible. That's why they had a high draft pick.
Yeah. So, and he saw that, hey, we can't beat the Pistons or the Celtics or whoever until we actually put in the work, get better players, and then go the extra mile by coming in early, staying late, and doing what needed to be done to be better. That's what I think of when I think of a great leader. And that's why they were able to win all the championships they did, because they put in the work to do it.
They probably had arguably number one or number two best coach ever in the NBA.
Yeah, and that helps as well.
Plus surrounding himself with the best players, like Scottie Pippen. If Scottie Pippen would have been on any other team, he probably would have done the same thing, helped that team win championships.
And I may get some flack for this, arguably a better defensive player than Michael Jordan. You'll find people that talk about that, maybe not, all the time, but, can listen to basketball podcasts or sports talk or whatever. And I've heard people bring up the fact that, I was a little younger. The time I didn't really, focus that much on basketball as much as I do now, as far as defense goes, or what plays they're running and stuff like that, back in the 90s. But yeah, I mean, he was great as well. But also, I think that it took Phil Jackson and Michael Jordan and maybe, Steve Kerr to bring out the greatness in all their role players, their bench players, so that they could have that success. It's not just one great player. So yeah, being able to recognize other people, allow them to make their, some of the decisions, allow them to make mistakes, create learning, like we talked about, there's learning opportunities so that you can learn and grow and be better. And those are signs of great leaders to me. And you're definitely no one's perfect. Think of in your mind who you think a great leader is. And I guarantee you they made many mistakes in their life, and learn from them. So yeah. I think we can go to the next question now. So
a great segue into the next one.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah. So why do you think leadership in life is helpful?
Well, definitely number one, which follows up to exactly what you were talking about, is resilience. So learning those life lessons, whether it's success or failure in sports or success and failure in life in general, I think resilience is the number one, kind of life leadership lesson that can help you.
Yeah,
because you can recognize those.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say being able to get up when you're down.
Exactly, like building on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, learning from that, and then recognizing what you need to do different the next time, and just keep going.
Yeah, applying it to that next situation. So as you said, those learning lessons, right? Or what are those lessons to learn to apply to the next situation? If you fail at something, then recognizing that, thinking about the relatable situations that when you have them in the future, and then using the resilience that you've built up, right? It's like a scar. It's been cut, right? And now it's kind of scarred over, and it's, it's even more protected now than it was before. But then you can see that scar and you remember, damn, I remember when I got this scar. Like, what about that time where this was when Kenny was younger, we had this slide in our yard, like this little play set. Slip and
slide. No?
It wasn't a slip and slide.
But you're talking about You're talking about the like slide and swing set. It's a swing set with a slide on there.
Yeah.
Slide. Okay. Yeah. Metal. It
had
slide.
like a piece of metal or something on it, and it was sticking out. I guess it was broken or whatever, and it cut my brother's leg. But I guarantee you, he learned something from that later in life that he could apply that. Whether it was with his children or something, that was a relatable situation that he would remember because they created that scar.
Don't trust your parents. That was the lesson I learned. Don't always trust your parents. They don't always have your best. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I still have the scar. Obviously, I was probably, I think, 3 at the time. I don't remember it happening. It's probably more traumatizing thing to me than anything. But yeah, I had this long scar. It's right on the very top of my thigh, as a constant reminder of be careful. Pay attention to your surroundings. Obviously, when you're 3, you're not thinking about that stuff. But as we grow and become adults and live our lives, you definitely can pay attention to things, attention to detail. That's probably what I've learned from that. But again, like I said, I don't really remember it, so maybe it's just somewhere in the back of my mind as a constant reminder. But go ahead, Matt. Sorry to cut you off there.
It's all good. And lastly, I would say probably, and you're going to hear this a lot from us, is ask for help, right? Ask for advice. Talk to the people that you view, as Kenny was talking about earlier, as leaders in your life, whether maybe it's a parent or a brother or a sister, a sibling. Maybe it's, if you're religious, maybe it's a pastor, a preacher, priest at your church, or if you're a person that is into sports like us, maybe it's relying on, coaches or old coaches or people that you admire today, and just, maybe you may not necessarily be able to talk to them, but maybe it's watching or reading something, a book that they've written, or, maybe the advice that you're looking for is with a therapist. Who knows, right? It really just depends on what your situation in your life is and what you can use as a tool or a resource.
Yeah, don't be
right. I find
don't be stubborn either. We all need help. Mm-hmm. No one's got life figured out perfectly, where they go through everyday situations where everything is sunshine and rainbows, and it's just the reality that we live in. So so don't be afraid to ask for help. Talk to people. Have like you said, someone that you trust, a friend, a coworker, or mentor of some sort that you can, talk candidly about, so that, you can get through life. I mean, and like we said at the top, it's not easy. It's hard. It's hard from everyone, no matter what background you come from. It's definitely harder for other people, and and easier for others, but it's hard in its own way. So yeah, don't be afraid to ask for help, or ask questions. You know, but yeah, sorry again. Go ahead, man. I have my thoughts. I have to get them out. So
get those thoughts out, and then just practice everything that you're doing if you want to be a good leader in your life or with your family or friends or whatever that is, right? And taking care of yourself. Well, you'll hear us say that a lot too about self-care, is just practice those things. Right? It's about learning learning lessons, and just keep practicing and try to do a better job. That's all you can do, right? It's not perfect, right? Leaders are not perfect people. But if you want to be a better leader in your life, just keep practicing those better things.
Yeah, and you said something important there. It's about being better. You're not going, you may be the best in whatever field you're in, but you could always be better. From everything that I've heard from great sportsman players, just to be a general, whether it's fishing or golf or boxing or whatever, people are always looking to get better, because if not, someone else is, and you're going to fall behind, which is fine too. But if you want to get better, you have to do the things to get better. You have to want to get better to get better. You have to put in the effort. Like I said earlier, you have to be willing to work hard at it. So yeah, practice for sure. And hopefully, and some people say perfect practice, but there's no perfect.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's practice, right? I mean, we're talking about practice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're in the game, that's when you almost have to be perfect. But in practice, you can make all the mistakes there so that you learn them in practice. So you don't make the mistakes in the game.
I would say
in the game of life.
I would say, yeah, you're able to get away with making some mistakes in practice that you're not going to get away with in a game or whatever. Yeah. And that goes to life as well. I mean, we're constantly trying to figure out how to be better or do things more efficiently or what have you. And how do we do that? Well, by trying, by doing it, by, creating those learning opportunities, by making mistakes, and that's practice. I mean, essentially one day, like today, is practice for tomorrow. Because obviously we don't want to keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again and just be stuck in a specific rut. So, but
like this podcast.
Yeah. Episode
2, this is practice. This is practice for
This is practice for a better day.
Exactly.
Sure.
Maybe by episode 100, it will be good. But as of now, it's still it's
work in progress.
Subparish, okay. It's work in progress.
For sure. So next, I think we're going to move on to a little bit different topic, but also ties in. Excuse me. So let's do another question, Matt. So what does accountability mean to you?
Accountability.
I mean, you could just Google it, I guess.
Yeah, but it's like, what does it mean to me, right? From my perspective, accountability is just owning your life, just owning what you do every day, and being accountable or responsible to a certain level to where you own and are the leader in your life and with what you do every day. I want to be, and I'll give some examples from my perspective, and then maybe Kenny can give his, some of his examples of, I want to be accountable to my family to ensure that they're happy, that they're safe, keep a roof over their head, clothes on their back, food in their bellies, shoes on their feet, and that they can become successful people in society. Support my wife, be accountable for supporting my spouse so that she is happy and healthy and gets to do the things that she wants to do without having to worry, without having to be stressed out about life's, unconventional and conventional stressors, which we'll talk about in another episode. But I'll just end it with this. Accountability is just, again, me being responsible and owning the things that I can control so that it is specific to helping my family be safe and successful to the best of their ability. That's it.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I have the very similar approach when it comes to that. It wasn't always the case, as we know, or as Matt knows. He's seen my life for the most part.
Yeah, cheers to your life.
Knows about most things about my life and things that I've done and gone through and decisions I've made, and good or bad. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I didn't always take accountable. I wasn't always accountable for my actions. If you listen to episode 1, briefly mentioned that I became a father at the age of 16. I was not accountable for that action at all. In full disclosure and keeping it honest and real, I do not have a relationship with my son at this time. Who knows what the future holds, but I'm not here to make excuses or anything like that. Just telling it like it is. However, I've learned from that and did not want to make that same mistake again. So my daughter, which is, about to graduate high school and then go to college, I've definitely took responsibility for that and have tried to instill those lessons that I've learned in her, in hopes that she doesn't make the same mistakes that I make. So far, so good. Keep my fingers crossed. She's 18, no kids. so that's a win-win, I guess. And she's focused on her education and wants to do great at that. So, and that should be her focus right now. So yeah, there's a little bit of realness for everybody. And again, if you did listen to episode 1 in its entirety, kudos to you. Oh my God. I mean, I had to sit and listen as Matt did all the editing for it. But I still went back and watched it to help, maybe guide him into what we should take out or leave in and stuff like that. And so if you sat and listened to me ramble on, you're a better person than I am, because it was kind of hard to listen to it sometimes, and I just wanted to close the screen and not watch it, but I powered through. So again, that's about being accountable. I had to be accountable for that. So yeah, how about, what are some accountability comparisons that you've seen in your life?
Okay, well, many people see it different ways. Obviously, we see it different than others may, or maybe even similar. So some of those comparisons would be where you were talking about our parents earlier, right? Is, our dad and mom always had a job. They always were working, even if they had to change jobs or change locations, or, they got laid off from some job. They always went and did the right thing and was accountable for our family to make sure that we were happy and healthy, and, and we were able to grow although we did live in the same town, we lived in several different places. Probably that I can think to the top of my mind, 4 different places we moved in our time.
Can only
Maybe,
think
if
of
that's
3,
correct.
but
Right, so we lived down in that trailer park near the river. Then we moved to the where our grandparents lived, right, on the farm area that was down off of Wolf Creek Road. So yeah, I guess it was 3, and then we moved from there to Trust Ferry Road. So yeah, this is only 3. I don't know why I thought it was 4 for some reason. Oh, probably because
maybe before I was born.
Before you were born, when I was born, they lived in an apartment. Then they moved into that. So I don't remember that, but I'm not sure if they still lived in that apartment before they moved to the trailer park, or I was born and then they moved. But I don't remember. The only place I remembered first was the trailer park. Okay, so some other accountability comparisons that I've seen in my life is that in my career, I've seen people be accountable for sailors. Okay, so in the military, you really, no matter, Navy, Marine, Air Force, Army, you've got to be accountable for your sailors' actions, and you have to have intrusive leadership. So intrusive leadership means you have to be involved in their life. So if a sailor doesn't show up to work or a soldier doesn't show up to work, you got to go to their house, find out what's going on, right? Call the hospitals, call the police stations, check and see if, something happened to them, make sure that they're okay. Being accountable for their actions when they're off the ship or off of the duty station, making sure that they're not out there drinking and driving, that they're paying their bills, they're taking care of their family, they're not abusing their family, and they're doing the right thing, and that they're out there taking care of their responsibilities. I've seen that accountability in the military. I had to do the same thing. At one point I had over 200 sailors reporting to me and had to make sure that every single one of them was accountable to everything that they did in life. Everything from when I had a sailor get kicked out of their home is bringing them in, having them live on the ship, but then also working with the family readiness team and the MWR teams to help ensure that their spouse and their kids got a hotel room, and that was taken care of, and they helped them be successful because they weren't good with their money. Then it's following up with that and getting them the right resources and the right help to make sure that they can manage their money properly. So that was accountability kind of compared with family and life, and then also with a career.
And that shows, to going back to our previous topic about leadership and being a great leader, because I'm sure there were probably people in those similar situations that you were in that didn't give a shit what all those other sailors did when it was downtime. Part of that is because you care and you have empathy towards other people, and you want to see them be better, and grow and learn and stuff like that. So yeah, ties right back into learning to be a good leader, is to making sure that everyone that is around you and that you're responsible for is held accountable for their actions. So yeah,
some of the things that I've learned throughout my life too, mostly in the military, is that you can set expectations for accountability earlier, in not just in your career, in your life. If you're younger, for those young people listening, set those expectations for accountability early. Work with your family and friends on what are those accountability actions that you want from them. Communicate, talk to them about it, right? There are societal expectations, there's personal expectations, but make sure that the accountability that you're working towards is appropriate, fair, and it's harmless. It's not going to hurt anybody. It's just going to be helpful. So if you're young, I think setting those expectations are good if you're setting them early. For those of you that are my brother's age or even older that are listening, you just got to learn to let go. Be flexible and patient. In the Navy, we had this term called Semper Gumby. be flexible, remain flexible. So look that one up. It's pretty funny. It was a joke when anything was going on. We just want to
some
be
of y'all
super
might not
Gumby.
even
Something
know
could
who.
change.
Some of y'all might not even know who Gumby is. So you might want to look up who Gumby is first.
Fictional character. He's got a green
Yeah.
color to him. You'll see. It's hilarious.
Claymation, I believe.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
And you may have to
Yeah.
even have to look up what claymation is. Jesus. But that's okay. That's part of learning.
That's right. It's part of learning. Continue to just think positively about accountability. And if you think positive about it, it'll be fulfilling in your life. Another little piece of advice that I've learned along the way that I'll share with you is give yourself time and grace, right? Be accepting and respectful to others so that when you're being accountable to things or experiences in your life, that you're accepting to other people and other cultures. Don't be closed-minded. Take the blinders off. Experience thing, right? You have to think about, how is this affecting other people? Are their problems my problems? Or are we experiencing the same things? A lot of times other people's problems are not your problems. So just try to be accountable to your stuff. But if you can help other people, then do that. And when other people help you, appreciate it. Tell them. Be honest about it. And as you continue to do this, this is all going to help build your confidence and help you be a better leader in your life and be more accountable to what you're doing.
And one thing that comes to mind when you say that, though, is some people like don't force advice or help on people, because a lot of people may not be in a space for help or advice, or they didn't ask for it, so they may take offense to you giving it to them. So obviously, I mean, at least in my experience, sometimes you think you're doing something good and they just don't want to accept it, or they don't want to listen, and that just may be because of the space that they're in that moment. They may come to ask for help at a later time. They may apologize for not listening to you or whatever. I had a friend, for example, I say had a friend because I don't believe he's my friend any longer, but that's okay too. It's a guy I worked with for a few years. He was going through something that someone, I won't go into too many specifics because it's their story to tell, not mine, but they knew someone that was going through something pretty bad, and my friend was basically blaming themselves. And I tried to, explain to him that it's not his fault, and they just got super defensive, which I did not expect at all, So I stepped back and was like, okay, you know what? It's my bad. And I just let them know I'm here if you need me. That's it. If you want to come to me with something, I'm here. And then, never talked to them again. So, they actually moved away from Colorado, so they don't even live here anymore, and that's fine. Things happen, and like you said earlier, can't dwell on that too much. Yeah, it does bother me from time to time because it's, especially you have a friendship, most people, they want their friends to last. And as you get older, you realize it doesn't always happen. Friends you had in high school aren't the friends you're going to have necessarily in your adult life. And that's okay.
That's true. 100% true. Yeah.
So, and it took me a long, it's kind of hard to explain, but the simplest way I can say it is sometimes and this is just my personality, and this goes back to childhood, I get attached to people really easily. I get attached to certain personalities that draw you in. We all know those type of people that have, maybe they are a great storyteller, or they're really funny, or really insightful, or they're really smart, and you're drawn to them for whatever reason. Sometimes your draw to them is not near as strong as their draw to you. So eventually you have to learn to just, let it go naturally, and, not cling on to something that just wasn't, friendship or any type of a relationship just wasn't meant to be. And you have to move on from that. It's a tough lesson to learn. Obviously, you get sad about it, you possibly depressed or whatever. But in the end, why would you want to be around someone that doesn't want to be around you? So you just kind of have to let it be and move on, and like you said, give yourself some grace, and then focus on things that you can control. And if it's meant, there's the old saying, if it's meant to be, let it go, or whatever it is. I forget what it is. And
if you let it go and it comes back, it's meant to
back
be.
then it's something like that. And
that's the whole premise of the movie Frozen, by the way. That is the complete whole premise of that movie.
Raise your hand if you've never seen it.
Never seen Frozen?
Never seen
Let
Frozen.
It Go is the whole part of that whole
My
movie.
wife and daughter watched it, years ago when it came out, but I've never seen it.
So
but yeah, it's those lessons you learn over time. Obviously, when you're in middle school or high school or something like, it's hard to get over the fact that who you thought was a really good friend or best friend or whatever doesn't really want to be your friend anymore for whatever reason. It seems like the end of the world, but it's not. It's okay. Guess what? You'll meet other people that don't want to be your friend too. That'll happen.
Yes.
And that's okay too. And then there'll be people that want to be your friend, but you don't want to be their friend. And that's always that's tough, because it's a tough conversation. How do you say, and some people don't say anything. They just move on. They ghost you or whatever, and then you eventually one day you realize, okay, yeah, I guess we weren't meant to be friends or whatever. So yeah. I think that's enough of my rambling. Here's some examples of how I've experienced accountability in different ways. Honestly, I don't know what I'm going to say here. I guess I briefly touched on it, the fact that I was not accountable for my actions at a young age.
Yes, you did.
And not just being a dad or father or whatever you want to call it, and different things in school. I didn't go to class in college. I wasn't accountable for I signed up and paid for college or took out loans or whatever, and then didn't go to class. Like, what is that? That's just a waste of everybody's time. It's definitely not something you should do. And I learned that the hard way. I didn't, you're at that age where you don't really want to listen to your parents and you just want to do your own thing. You think you're an adult. You think you know what's best. And or in my experience, I just wanted to do things that were fun. I didn't want to do hard things. Even today, I don't want to do things that are hard.
I was going to say, when did you ever want to do anything that was hard? Unless it was fun.
Never. Yeah. I'm the worst, honestly, at taking accountability for my actions. Historically, I would say, again, as I've gotten older, eventually you have to grow up a little and you have to realize, yes, it would be great if we could just spend every day having fun, doing what we want to do and have fun. But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. So you have to, for lack of a better term, man up and be responsible and be accountable for your actions. For example, the job that I have, without going into too many details again, and people are going to be like, why aren't you giving us details? Well, there's a lot of things going on with the company that I work for that I can get into at a later time, but not currently. And if I was to tell you the name of the company, you could Google it and then find out why. But I'm not going to do that. So, but what I will say is it's a corporate job where I work at a computer all day and stare at a computer. Well, I'll say this: it's a medical device company, and we have and I work in billing. So we have an old billing system, essentially, that where everything's manual. Occasionally, you have to send an email to other departments. So essentially, I would, you'd send this email. It has a chain of command. It goes to one department, they approve the refund, and then it goes to the top, I guess, C-suite person that gives the final approval. Well, there were a few occasions where this person would email me back asking why I did this certain thing on this file, or shouldn't it be this way, or pointing out something that where I made a mistake, a learning opportunity. At first you get the email and you're scared because someone that could have you fired is sending you an email that you don't normally communicate with on a daily basis because they're higher up in the company. That's your first initial thought, especially when you come in on a Monday to these emails. And you're like,
Monday email's terrible. Or they send it Sunday night. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, they were always sent on Saturday or Sunday when I wasn't at work. So I would see it on Monday. I come in and I would review everything, the account, what this person was asking in the email. And then I would realize, you're right, I did make a mistake. So I wouldn't say that in the email because it's corporate. My mindset is I don't want to shit on myself too much. Like, why are we keeping this guy around, But I did take accountability for my mistake. I didn't chime back, what are you talking about? You're wrong. I would say that, you know what, you're right. I made this mistake. I'll fix it and we'll move on. Guess what? I would see this person from time to time in the building, and they were always friendly with me. In meetings, you can joke around with this person, and everything's Gucci. There's no issue. It's this person understands that these mistakes can happen sometimes because we're human. Like I said, we did everything manually. So sometimes the math ain't mathing right, or whatever. And then eventually you talk to your coworkers and realize, oh, guess what? They're getting similar emails because they're creating the same learning opportunities. And, and this higher up person is just, double checking, making sure everything is correct before it's on them, because it's on them to make that final approval and say so. And so that it doesn't reflect bad on them. And that's, I think, lends to leadership. They want to make sure if a mistake has happened that, hey, it probably should be done this way. Or a lot of times the emails would ask, or they weren't sure themselves. So they would be like, oh, I thought it was like this, or I thought it was supposed to be like that. And then I would chime back with, well, this is what I learned and how I was taught or trained. Maybe you're right. Maybe, and I would get advice from team, my manager, or my team lead, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we're all doing it correctly, because sometimes, people forget exactly how to do a specific task or whatever, because they're not necessarily doing those tasks anymore. They're doing other things. So it becomes a collaborative effort, and a great way to, just an example of something that's happened in my professional career, where just because you show up on Monday with an email from someone that you don't, that's above your direct manager, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just it just is what it is, and we learn and grow together. Okay, so our next topic or segment, I would like to discuss ownership. So, how does someone truly take ownership to heart? Not, buying a car or a house, not that type of ownership, but real ownership in your life, Matt. How does someone take ownership to heart?
Always try to tell people that
Turn the
this is
light on.
about extreme ownership. So, hell yeah, let's talk about extreme ownership. So, if you're not familiar with the book Extreme Ownership, Jocko Willink and another Navy SEAL wrote, detailing their career and their life on how to own things, right? How to have extreme ownership. And if you can do this in your life, then you will be more successful than 99% of the people out there. So it would put you in a small percentage of people if you can do this, but it's very difficult, right? So one of their key quotes in the book is not bad teams, only bad leaders.
I think it's
So if
no
there
bad
are,
teams, but
sorry, let me say that again. So a quote from
there
their
are no
book
bad
is
teams.
exactly. So the quote from their book is there are no bad teams, only bad leaders. So if there's only bad leaders and every team is good, then people can inherently or will inherently do well and be successful, whether it's in their life, their career, just in experiences and things that they're doing. But one part of what the book talks about and how you can take extreme ownership, whether it's in your career or in your life, it's about being responsible. So if you're successful or your failures is only on the leader, then any team, family, friends, work, colleagues, work team, right? If the leader owns those, then everything that they're doing will be their responsibility. So, for example, if you own everything in your life, whether it's good or bad, and you take that responsibility and own it, there's no one else to blame. You can't say, well, it's my boss's fault that I didn't get a raise, but it's because I didn't ask for one. Well, then you're probably not going to get one unless you're lucky. In life, if you say, I want to have children, but I don't know what to do. Maybe you don't have a partner, spouse, whatever, but you love kids and you want to have kids, then you have to do something about it. Take ownership of your life. Look at adoption, look at fostering, look at maybe finding a partner.
Wait, that stork doesn't just bring the baby to your house?
Exactly. It just doesn't drop it in and deliver it to your house. There's no one else to blame. You have to take the actions. You have to own the success so you don't fail. It literally rests on the leader. And you also have to acknowledge when you make those mistakes. You have to admit when you make failures. Again, just take ownership of those. But then also develop a plan. You can just wing it through life, as my brother has a lot, which is okay, right? But if you plan to be successful, if you say, look, I want to have $1 million when I retire, that can't be the end of your plan. You have to do something.
Yeah,
you have to say, I'm going to, right, I'm going to put away this amount of money every week or every month, every 2 weeks, whenever you get your paycheck, so you can meet that goal. So that when you develop the plan, you follow it. And then if you make a mistake, you adjust the plan. And then you become the owner, right? And that's taking extreme ownership of your life, just as an example. What do you think about that, Kenny?
Man, that goes back to what I was talking about when your computer crashed, and you probably weren't here to hear what I was talking about, but
Probably not.
it goes directly into what I was talking about. When you do get that email from someone higher up in the company that is above your manager, it's not necessarily going to be a bad thing. And look over what they're talking about. Don't freak out. Just, you know, think of it. You're a team. You're all on the same team. You all have the same goals. As far as doing what's right for the patient. And in my example, if you made a mistake and they're pointing it out, don't, like I said, don't freak out. Just take ownership of that mistake. You know what? You're right. And I'm going to fix it. I know how to fix it. And if you don't know how to fix it, ask, like we talked about, ask for help. Get another person that may have more experience with it. In my instance, I knew, I could see the mistake I made. Like I said, when you're looking at you know X amount of files a day, eventually you will make a mistake, and that's okay. The lesson is don't keep making the same mistake. That's where the problem lies. It's a lot of times I believe people, and I've done it. I'm no different. I've been there where I've made a mistake and wouldn't admit it. Admitting your mistakes, owning up to it, is how we learn and grow, how we become better. Until you're able to do that, you can't move on, and you may have this guilt in the back of your mind, and stuff that just eats away at you daily, and that's how cancer is developed. In your body, it's the same thing. It just, you can't allow those things. You have to just wake up and tell yourself, you know what, I fucked up. I fucked up, and I'm not going to make that same fuck up today. I'm going to do something better today. I'm going to be better. And then you may make a different mistake, and that's okay. You learn from that, and then the next day, and eventually you won't make those mistakes. You may make, like I said, you may make a different mistake. The key is to learn from them and move on. Don't dwell on it. Don't beat yourself up about it, because guess what? Everybody makes those mistakes. Everybody's made the same, very similar mistakes as you have. And we just have to move on. Don't dwell on it. Don't let it eat you up inside. It's just a horrible life to live. It's not healthy for anybody. It'll bleed over and to other relationships, other people you come in contact. You'll take things out on people that have no bearing on anything whatsoever. Just some random person or whatever. So it all trickles down, and that goes for positivity as well. When you're positive, it rubs off on people. Except, I will say, there are some people that just don't like positivity. They can't stand people are always happy and positive because something in their life is bothering them. That is their issue. That's not your issue. Don't change who you are to be a people pleaser, to please every single person, because guess what? We're all different. We all like different things. We all see things differently. You may have some similarities, but you're not going to make everybody happy. You just have to accept that and move on.
You got to watch out for those accountability vampires out there. they will suck the negative energy out of you and
Well,
make you
suck the
feel like you,
positive energy out of
well,
you.
sorry, yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
not the negative. They'll suck the positive energy out of you to make you feel like you shouldn't be responsible for things in your life. But Kenny, that was a great example, a great real life example of how leadership, accountability, ownership, and it's all affected our lives. So I think that was a really good example for you to share, and I appreciate you sharing that with
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
So
No worries.
at the end of the day, what can we do about all of this that we've been talking about? There's definitely no easy solution, but there are a few ideas, and we talked about them earlier in the podcast. So let's go over them. Own your life, right? Be the leader to yourself, your family, your friends, but in your own way. Make it yours. Maybe it's just being present in the moment when times are tough. If you have someone going through a tough time, they're dealing with some adversity in their life, just be there for them.
Yeah. And you're not, you're not the answer to all your problems, um, or all of someone else's problems. You know, there's things that my wife goes through, and things that my daughter goes through, and things that you go through, and things our parents go through that I don't know what to say or do to help, and sometimes just standing there, giving a hug, say it's going to be okay. That sometimes that's all it takes. Seems simple, right? But sometimes it's not always that simple. I wish it was.
Yeah, sometimes you have to take the first step, and that's really all it is. Once you do that, then it makes everything else easier.
Yeah. And if you're one of those people that are going through something that you need help for, don't be afraid to ask for help, to seek out guidance. Um, for the most part, having a conversation, getting advice from a friend or family member, that's free, obviously more expensive if you want to get therapy or or something like that. But if you know someone that's possibly been through a similar situation as you're going through currently, maybe they talked to you about it before, seek them out again. Um, they may not know what to say either. They just may listen to you and be able to empathize with you and just remind you that, things are tough now, but they will get better. So, and also be accountable when it matters. Take care of your body too. Self-care is huge. It's probably the single most important thing, and the biggest, and the thing we actually can control. You know, yes, you may have some health issues that don't allow you to do certain things, but if you can, and when you can, example, exercise, going to the gym, or even working out at home. Like maybe you have anxiety and you don't want to be around a bunch of, sweaty people that have a body that's way better than yours. And you just, you're afraid to take that step and go in there. One thing I like to do as I do go to the gym, and I don't like people to see my body necessarily. I wear sweat pants and a hoodie and kind of baggier type clothes because I'm not exactly the type of person. Maybe one day if I have a great body, but I'm not the type of person to show off my body or whatever. But I like to go in early in the morning when there's hardly anybody there, or in the evening, like before closing, when there's hardly anybody there. That's one thing I do. Or you could try to do some exercise at home. Just buy some simple weights, or walk around your neighborhood, or run, or whatever. Even though I don't subscribe to running personally. It's really hard on your knees and ankles, especially as you get older, but some people live by it. I like to say to each their own.
When you're in the military, Kenny, it's exactly a good example of this. When you're in the military, you see these people that go to boot camp, right? We went to boot camp. We went through all that. You don't lift weights when you're in boot camp. You're just doing push-ups, sit-ups. You're doing calisthenics. You're Yeah, you're running, you're doing all these exercises and everything. You're not going to the gym. You're just doing this stuff in the barracks. You're doing it outside. You don't have to pay to go to a gym. You can exercise and do the things on your own. And I guarantee you, if you just commit to it and you own it and be that leader in your life to want to be better, you will be.
Yeah. And other examples that I didn't get to as far as self care goes and being accountable to yourself. Maybe you could meditate, like I spoke about it in the first episode. If you haven't listened to it, I briefly talked about how there's a cave nearby that a hot spring cave, and I'd meditate in there. You don't necessarily need to do that even. You can just meditate it at home, turn off lights, turn off screens, and just be in the moment. And also, I say try because a lot of us, as we know, obesity is a problem here in the United States, and we don't always eat healthy. So try to eat healthy, eat healthier. Have an apple instead of a donut or a banana, or whatever healthy thing you can do. Add in a salad from time to time. Take stairs instead of an elevator if you can. So, and probably the most important thing that a lot of people don't know is get sleep. A lot of people can run off 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and that's them. Some people need 8, 9 hours of sleep. Whatever your body knows, and whoever, know your body more and better than anybody else. So you could do an experiment one day. One day, get 3 hours of sleep. See how you function the next day. The next day, get 9 hours of sleep, and then see how you function that next day. I guarantee you're going to function better on more sleep. So get as much sleep as you can. Many people out there talk about it. It's something that's really important for our health and for our mind and body. So yeah, self-care. Do it.
I like it. I like it. Self care is very important. So, ownership has many faces. We've talked about all these different things. So, even doing just little things with your family, taking ownership of your mistakes can help out a lot. So, try to help out more with household chores, errands. Maybe your wife or your husband goes out and runs errands every weekend, but you don't go. Maybe you should start doing that. Help out. Maybe do a little bit more to help take care of your kids if you have kids, or other family members or friends. Create some easy wins for yourself, right? When something's your fault, just own it.
Mm-hmm.
And learn how you can do better the next time.
Yeah, and to your point there, Matt, with even household chores, like I honestly don't have a lot of chores like I do. I personally do laundry here. My wife has a job where she works more than me, so I do have to pick up some of those chores. Like I said, laundry. Well, the dishes, that's my daughter's chore. Well, guess what? There's some days where she's not here, where she doesn't come home because she stays with friends. She goes to school, she'll go to work, she'll go stay with friends. But guess what? We cook a lot at home, and there are dishes every day that still need to be done.
Yeah, those damn dishes, it's like they come out of nowhere. It's like 1 minute there's nothing there, and the next minute,
I know.
like, where do all these cups come from?
And when you live with someone that loves to cook,
believe me, I know. I will dirty up
dishes.
20 dishes just making one meal.
So I got off work yesterday. It was snowing most of the day, still snowing when I got home. So guess what I had to do? I had to shovel the driveway. Did I want to do that? No, I didn't. But I did because it needed to be done. And it's really not that hard and doesn't take that long. I don't have a long driveway, so I'm lucky there.
Thank goodness.
And it only snowed like 3 or 4 inches. So it wasn't It didn't take that long. I got it over with, even after, working 8 hours. And then I come inside, and guess what? The dishes needed to be done. And my wife's still at work. My daughter's at work. And so what am I going to do? Am I going to sit around and smoke weed and watch funny internet videos? Yes, I'm going to do those things too.
After the
But
dishes.
it's much more enjoyable when all your chores are done. I take ownership of that and get them done out of the way. And in all honesty, if we're being honest, had my daughter came home last night and not had a sleepover at a friend's house, I probably would have left them for her to do. I've done that many times. But I'm in a good mood. It's Friday. I'm about to get my drink on, like a lot of us do. And it's much more enjoyable. I can enjoy that bourbon a little bit more when I know that chores are done. The driveway's clear. The dishes are clean. Because guess what? My wife came home, and every time I do it's because I rarely do the dishes, but every time she's like, "Oh, you did the dishes." She's super sweet, puts her in a good mood, makes everything so much better. So yeah, and again, so it goes back to your easy win. That was such an easy win. It doesn't, and it's a win-win for everybody. Like it didn't bother me. I wasn't mad that I was in there doing dishes, because at the end of the day, we're a team. We have to do things for each other and in order for it to work. So, and also, like I said, remember, you're not alone, and it's a team effort. But if you're the leader of that team, take ownership, be accountable for the team's wins and losses. Don't blame the players. Don't blame everybody else because of your bad leadership. So, and also you don't make every shot that you take. And just remember, 50%, that's superb excellence. Or you could say that, you think about it in baseball terms. I always compare things to baseball. Baseball is a game of failure.
Yes, it is. People don't realize
that don't watch baseball, they don't understand that. It is so hard to hit a baseball. It's hard to get on base, and it's hard to keep at that level of competitiveness for a long time. The best hitters in baseball hit the ball about 30% of the time. So guess what? 70% of the time they are failing at their job, and they are paid professionals. So if you keep that in mind, you'll be fine. You may fail too at 60, 70% of your life, but just remember, so are most people. Keep pushing on, take ownership, learn, grow, and just be better the next day. That's all we can do.
Love it.
Okay, I think that's enough for today, Matt. We've, especially me, rambled on about this, that, and the other. Hopefully there's some sticking points in there, and hopefully we learned and we grew. So that's all for today. I can't even read either. In all honesty, I have a script right here that tells me what I'm supposed to say next.
It's the same for every podcast. It's going to be the same every time.
Yeah, we have an outline of things we want to talk about and things we want to say. We're not reading, directly from a script, but we do have a little outro that says, "That's all for today's episode of Life on Record." So like, share, subscribe. And if you're new to this podcast, tell a friend, a family member, or work colleague about us. We just might make their day. Or they hate us, but that's okay too. We don't care.
They hate us because they ain't us.
So again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Life on Record is written and produced by Matt and Kenny Compton. Music by Mr. Smith.